Hey everyone, this week or this past week, while driving around our neighborhood, we noticed three new for sale signs in our neighborhood. So three houses in our neighborhood went up for sale this week. That's crazy. We're living in a crazy time. So I just wanted to kind of give the overview of how my partner and I came to buy our home. And the first thing that we kind of did was like, I was really antsy to buy a house. I will say I do not like renting. It's nothing against, nothing against people who rent or landlords. My issue is that I like to have responsibility for the place that I live in. And I also like not having to deal with, share the wall neighbors. I like to have control of the whole building. A little bit of a control issue, I guess, but I like being responsible for the whole building. I don't like having to wait for somebody to fix something. I don't like having to wait for this. I'd rather take care of it either myself or worry about it myself. I'd rather worry about those things on my own. Owning something, it's probably just because of the way I grew up. My father was a real estate agent. Well, my father is still a real estate agent, but he got his license when I was in middle school. I kind of watched him turn into a bit of a real estate investor as I was getting older, just kind of watch him, acquire one property and another property and just kind of help him out with fixing them up. And it's just something that kind of got built into my blood, is that I want to at least own my own home. So it took several years of convincing to get my partner on board. Dude, for the amount that we pay in rent, we could get a mortgage on a place twice the square footage of that small cramped apartment that we could get a tiny, like a smallish house and pay less than this on the mortgage. And he was just like, that's not true. That's not true. I'm finding all these listings and doing the math for him. Dude, look how much money we could be saving. And it's also building equity in the house. Like, we need to be doing this. So eventually he broke down, okay, fine. We had a really bad situation with the apartment we were living at. The AC unit went out, and it took the property management people a month and a half to fix it. They put a portable AC unit in our apartment that was spewing mold. They said it wasn't spewing mold, but it was spewing mold. We had the mold. And that frustration really kind of set him in and said, you know what, you're right, we could have taken care of this ourselves, blah, 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 we wouldn't have had to deal with this. So at that point, I started looking. We had one more year on our lease, and I just started looking at not apartments. I started looking at houses. We kind of agreed on like a 4 or 5 town spread in which we were okay. Anywhere in that area was fair game because it was close to his work, but not so far from mine. And we did all that searching. And I said to him, okay, partner, what are your must-haves? What are the 3 things that you need in order to be happy with whatever house we pick? And, the things that he came up with were single floor living and central air. And he also wanted to have at least 1.5 bath. I was like, that's it? Just those 3 things? And I'm like, in this area, that you can find that in most places. So I was like, that's not too bad. All right, let's go looking. So I went onto websites like, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, just searching all the listings and driving around the neighborhoods. And we were just trying to see what was available in the area, learn what the market was, learn how much, houses cost in different areas, and just see if there was anything that just kind of screamed deal to me. So eventually, after months, there were a couple of properties that just kept showing up. And personally, I have an aversion against flips. Some people like to buy flips and just go and move in. It's all move-in ready. But I just know from, helping my dad renovate rental units that, even if you are trying to do the best job possible, things will slip through the cracks. And when you're buying a flip, personally, I'd much rather have control over the repairs myself. Even if I don't personally do the repair, I like having control over the repairs. So there were a lot of places that just screamed flip to me. It's hard to say exactly what I mean, but I guess the key thing in looking for something, to see if something was a flip, if you can find the history on that property. You look for, things that were owned for a short amount of time, like 2 years or less. And if they bought it for much cheaper than they are trying to sell it for, well, then that kind of screams flip. But sometimes you can just look at the pictures and some of the renovations that were done, and some of it just screams flip to me. I don't know how to distill that right now. Maybe in another video I will distill down what, I could probably look through a bunch of listings online and walk through them with you and like, hey, this one screams flip, this one screams flip. That's just been my experience, and I just kind of, in my mind, filtered out all the flips and found a lot of them that, found a couple of properties that fit our criteria that weren't necessarily flips. And we drove by a couple of them. We went to a few open houses, and my partner and I, we weren't completely happy. We're like, well, this would do, but that's on the, it's on the high end of our budget, and it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't seem like we're getting a good deal here. We don't, I personally don't like paying full value for a property. I'd rather find something that needs a couple of things fixed and then just kind of build that in as kind of a safety net for myself. So eventually there was this property that literally just kept showing up every search. And I was ignoring it for a while because there were two things that really made me not really that interested in it. The fact that there was a swimming pool in the backyard, and I know how much work swimming pools are. And I just, when you buy a house with a pool in it, yeah, cool, you get a pool, but you don't know what condition it's in, you don't know what kind of work you got to do to it, and that just made me nervous. The other thing that made me nervous was that the brick walkway, the brick stairs, and the brick driveway were all lined with wood trim. And wood rots. And from the picture, it looked worn, it looked old. When we went to look at the property, it was falling apart. And I was just like, I do not like this wood. If I were, if I had if it was my place and I had the money, I would just kind of throw all the wood out and I would replace it with either like some sort of complementary stone or maybe a complementary brick, or just to get the whole thing concreted in line and just not have to deal with it. Because like I said, I don't care how pressure treated your wood is on day one, in 30 years, it's going to be rotted through. And I don't personally like the fact that they combine wood with brick. Like, you're combining something that's going to last a long time with something that's not going to last that long. And maybe it looked really cool back in the 70s. I don't know. But that, I really didn't like that. But the rest of the house looked pretty solid. Had this, this cute room that, used to be an enclosed porch, and now it's a room. They had, they had the semi-attached garage, which, would have been good for my partner. It was a corner lot, so that meant I could, we could have visitors and park all around the corner and not have to worry about it, which I personally really liked. It had, you had the multiple bathroom scenario, you had central air. I was like, you know what? When I wasn't finding anything that particularly made me happy, I kept watching the price go down on this house, and I was like, you know what? Hey, let's go look at this place. He wasn't happy about it at first, but we walked through and we were just like, hey, there's something we can do here. For example, we walked in, you didn't see this when you were looking at the property view on Zillow. Like, they had all these pictures. You could tell that the pictures were old because when you walked in, the ceiling did not look the same. When the pictures were taken, or maybe the person who took the pictures must have been really good at this, but they did not capture the fact that the ceiling looked like it was falling apart. It was said to us by the realtor when we first walked in, because I was like looking at the ceiling, like, what the heck happened here? And she said, oh, well, the roof was replaced. There was a big issue with the roof in 2014. They went and had the roof replaced, and they just never fixed the ceiling after that. And I was looking at it, it was this popcorn ceiling that had glitter in it. Like, it was very similar to the work that my mother did on the house that I was in growing up, except she used sand paint, but then she got the ketchup bottle full of glitter because she saw it on Regis and Kathy Lee. And she's like, put all the glitter everywhere. We were vacuuming glitter off of that carpet for years. Like 3 years later, still vacuuming up glitter from when she put glitter on the ceiling. And it was like one of those ceilings, except that it was popcorn paint instead of the sand paint. and there was just glitter in the ceiling. It was popcorn paint, and it was starting to peel and crack, and it was just like sheets coming up in sheets, just from the water damage from the roof leaking back all those years ago. And I was like, okay, well, that's definitely something that I know I can do. I can definitely remove the popcorn paint. And we were looking around, there wasn't much else that needed to be done to the property. Um, Superficially looking at it, there wasn't a bug issue. There wasn't, there was a bit of a smell, but we're like, oh, we'll just replace the carpet. And, there was actually hardwood under the carpets, sort of. I mean, you walked in the basement, you look upstairs, you could see the hardwood in the hardwood floor. And we're like, oh, well, maybe we can just, buff up the floors, remove the carpet, and we could be fine. Wasn't that easy, but I'll talk about that in another video. So we were looking through all of that. We're just, we were in the basement looking up. Oh, it's got this beautiful hardwood. Okay, then we're seeing that the ceiling's got all this paint coming off, and I was just asking, hey, what's going on with the seller? He's had it on the market for a while. What's going on? And she's like, oh, he's looking to, retire and sell the house. His kids are grown, and doesn't really have a need for such a big house anymore. I'm like, okay, you go in the basement, you see, the high school football pictures, and you could tell they were somewhat dated. So I was estimating by the look of the pictures that the kids were, in their early to mid 30s, so a little bit older than me. And I was just like, okay, that works. And we just kind of fell in love with the basement. Which is weird because the pictures in the basement on the listing were just awful. It looked disgusting. But we came downstairs like, oh, this could be like, a nerd cave. We're gonna, we can, set up video games, and there was this nice bar. And we're like, yeah, let's get that going. We'll be able to do that. And that just wound up being much more hard work, but that's again a story for another video. So we kind of came up and we were like, well, you know what? We don't have a realtor yet. We were just looking and doing all these things. And, we talked with the realtor. We actually really liked her, and she was already representing this. She was already representing the seller. And I know because my dad's a realtor, and I wasn't sure about the state rules because this was a different state than where my dad's licensed. But I knew that in some states, you could be on both sides of the deal. And somebody who was experienced as she was, I was like, you know what, I can trust her with that. And, it turned out that she also had investment properties in the area, and we were just kind of penning it off. Like she was, she obviously knew what she was talking about, and she was glad that we knew what we were talking about. And, when we were talking about it, and I said, look, we've got this, neither of us have any debt right now. We both have our cars and student loans paid off. And, I work as an engineer, he works as a chemist, it all works out. And, so we got approved, we put in an offer, we bought the house, and first thing we did after changing the locks was, start to get rid of that popcorn ceiling. Once the popcorn ceiling was gone, we went and replaced the carpets, and then we moved in. So I can talk about that in another video, but that's the story of how we bought our home together. Let me know in the comments, what did you do what were you looking for when you were buying your first house? Maybe maybe you're looking now. What do you think you really want when you're looking for your first house? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have a conversation. So for now, let's stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great evening.